Right, so we need to talk a little bit about Israel and Hezbollah. We haven't talked about that theatre of conflict for quite a while.
I know, I try to avoid it.
Yeah. It is always a bit of a minefield, because one of the first things to say is that whenever we, for example, express any sort of criticism of the Zelensky government, some people accuse us of being pro-Putin, pro-Russia, pro-Kremlin.
Yeah.
It's just not the case. Some cretins have even accused us of actually being in the pay of Russia, things like that. Nonsense. So, the first thing to say about this, my own position anyway, is that I'm neither for Israel nor the Arabs. I'm an Englishman, thank you very much. We haven't got a dog in the fight, nor should we. I won't pick a side. I refuse to pick a side. I don't accept that paradigm. But a lot of people do, isn't it? I think it's a pitfall a lot of people fall into, where you're so anti-Islam, for example, that you effectively become pro-Israeli, like Douglas Murray, say, for example. Or the other way round. You're so anti-Israel that you effectively pro-Muslim, like Jeremy Corbyn or George Galloway or something.
Jackson Hinkle.
Right. Yeah. Lots of people, I think, fall into that pitfall, and I refuse to do that. No.
This has been particularly rough on Jeremy Corbyn, hasn't it?
He's lost a lot of friends.
His pager blew up. No,
oh.
So I've prepared that joke for ages.
My concern about picking sides, if you will, is that it then provides a rationale for military adventurism, doesn't it? And if we can see the story of, when the UK and the US go out to, particularly the Middle East, it doesn't end well for us.
It's not in our interest, is it, either way?
It's not our problem to solve. We're not the world police.
Yeah. I mean, some people say that Israel are our closest ally in the region. Are they, though? What have they done for us lately?
I mean, probably technically true, but
I just don't pick a side. I take the Magna Carta over either the Talmud or the Quran. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but I just look at them as they're just foreign countries. They're just foreign countries a long way off.
Sure, yeah.
With me,
it's an endless, disgusting desert feud that's got nothing to do with England. So there you go. Yeah, we shouldn't be funding them. See, when you say an opinion like that, if say we shouldn't be funding them. Oh, so you're pro-Arab, are you? No.
We're not even funding them. I mean, I think Starmer stopped even the private sales of arms.
No, it was a partial arms ban.
So the other day I saw on Question Time that Zia Youssef fella talking about how we shouldn't stop arms sales to Israel because then we wouldn't have any influence with the Netanyahu government.
We have influence with Netanyahu.
Right, yeah. Are you mad?
What was the response he made to Lammy the other day? As much as I hate to say, well, look, you were supposed to go meet with David Lammy, he was like, no.
Netanyahu doesn't give a fig what our Foreign and Commonwealth Office say.
He doesn't take David Lammy very seriously.
But put it on its head, if it was the other way round, if the Scots were occupying Newcastle...
As they have done previously.
Or the Welsh would be sieging Bristol or something.
I don't think they've done
Let them have that. Yeah.
Or Exeter.
Better.
I would not be listening to Netanyahu saying, you must stop the violence. I'd be like, no, be quiet. This is our problem.
We've got a few Scottish cities to bomb.
Yeah.
That's going to be taken out of context.
Just got to nick Glasgow real quick. That's a great little clip for Hope Not Hate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Lotus see out of context is a bit...
I like Scotland, by the way.
Yeah, I like Scotland. Scots people, the reason why I didn't get in any real trouble for my anti-Scottish things, because nearly all Scots have got a sense of humour.
Yeah, they do.
Haven't they? It's rare to find a Scots person that can't laugh at themselves and Britain and everything.
And somehow they become leaders of the SNP.
Oh yeah, the odd humorous one.
They fail upwards.
Yeah, they do. I don't understand. Anyway.
So yeah, we're not funded by Jerusalem or Moscow. We are in fact funded by our brilliant or Iran, nor even Tehran.
Yeah.
Right.
We're actually funded by our subscribers.
Or
Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe.
Our subscribers.
Just throwing that one out there.
Yeah, and the odd super chat and the odd bit of merch and Islander magazine. See how seamless that was, Carl?
That was it.
Professional.
Very good.
By Islander magazine, it's brilliant. It's got loads of people in it. It's got Mr. Cole Benjamin, whoever he is published in it. We've got Morgoth, great Morgoth, Dr. Parvini, Dave Green, Stefan Molyneux. It's good stuff. It is really worth buying, I think. So do consider purchasing this. Oh, and Big Josh Firm as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him.
Best till last.
Off Lotus Eaters. That Josh Firm off
I
Lotus.
hate that guy. What a scumbag.
Okay, back to the interminable conflict between Israel and all their Arab neighbours. So, just this morning, I believe it was, or overnight, Israel have done some sort of incursion into southern Lebanon again. I say again because when you look back at the history of it, this happened many, many, many times. This isn't new. So one of the things I want to do in this segment is kind of talk to people that might not have all that lot, younger people who might not remember or won't remember the early 2000s, or even the 80s, or even the 70s. I wasn't alive in the 70s. So there's a ground invasion into southern Lebanon. Lebanon is directly above Israel on the map. So where to begin? You could go back to the very early 20th century, World War One. Could talk a bit about Lawrence of Arabia and things, but I won't. Well, let's start at the Yom Kippur War, 1973. Mm-hmm. So that was when Israel had all sorts of wars with all their neighbours, sort of thing.
Well, when the Arabs in a giant coalition, and they thought we'll invade on Yom Kippur because the Israelis won't be at their ready. This will be when they're on some sort of Israeli Jewish holy day. I don't know anything about it really.
Public holiday, yeah.
Public holiday, and they'll all be chilling out, drinking wine or whatever. We'll get them.
We'll catch them unawares. Actually, ever so slightly, just a side note, I didn't think I'd be talking about this, but actually backfired a bit because although for the first few minutes people were like, it's like a Sunday, like we're not ready for business. Yeah. The fact was all the streets and roads were empty, so they could move assets around easier than any other day. So that backfired a bit on the Arabs. Anyway, during that time, back then, they had to have a bit of a war with Lebanon in the Yom Kippur War. But it's sort of never ending. It's sort of ongoing. I mean, they had to do an incursion in the late 70s, 1978. They bounced across the border into Lebanon because Lebanon was having long wars. You remember Beirut being a byword for urban conflict when we were young, right?
Well, yeah, but that's because the Muslims were trying to take over a Christian country, which they did. And for some reason, we let it happen.
Well, in 1982, the Israelis had enough of it, and they went all the way to Beirut briefly. They had enough of it in 1982. So by sort of 1999, the year 2000, the Israelis had put in a security barrier. What did they call it? The Israeli security zone. Is that what it was called? Basically, a big chunk of southern Lebanon, like 10% of all Lebanon, was just like this demilitarized zone imposed by the Israelis because they just kept firing. The PLO and Hezbollah just kept firing stuff into Israel. In fact, in the 82 incursion, that was to get the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. So they were, even though they're obviously the PLO Palestinians, they were of course using Lebanon as a base. Back then they would use Syria and Jordan. Jordan had enough of it after a while, just refused to have anything to do with the PLO. Anyway, that's Yasser Arafat, that's yesteryear. Don't need to worry about that too much. But nowadays, of course, Hezbollah is completely backed by Iran. So it's a much bigger conflict. It's a more deadly conflict in a way, or at least potentially. Because that is the big worry in all of this, to cut to the chase. The big worry is that ultimately there's a massive conflagration between, the US and Iran, and then, who knows what.
Yeah, I mean, I like you said at the beginning, I'm not a supporter of Israel or Hezbollah, but Hezbollah definitely have provoked this. And, at the end of the day, you've been provoking this for decades, and now Israel seems to just be taking the gloves off. And it's like, what did you expect? Yeah.
I shouldn't have to keep repeating myself saying I'm not pro-Israel, but it's a maxim of war. Don't take on someone that's vastly superior to you.
Yeah. And if
I'm talking to Hezbollah, you dropped the ball there, Hamas and Hamas.
But it's like, and if you do, and they retaliate in ways you can't resist, well, then what did you think was going to happen?
But have you considered that Allah is on their side?
Oh right, there is that. Yeah, of course. But it's an old thing from Sun Tzu to Machiavelli to von Clausewitz.
Any military tactician in the last 4,000 years.
Yeah. If you've got an enemy that is vastly superior to you, technically, probably best not to take them on in a show of arms. Because if they decide they want to annihilate you, well, anyway, old Nettie in Jerusalem has obviously decided, the gloves are off, right? So, in the last month or more, they have just killed most of the structure. The
entire top brass of Hezbollah.
The leadership, including the actual leader.
And this is the thing, I don't respect the crocodile tears from the leftist, third worldist types who are all like, oh no, they've killed a bunch of terrorists. It's like, sorry, Hamas and Hezbollah were terrorists. They've been terrorists for years. They they kill civilians. That's what they do, and they're trying to overthrow Israel. And it's like, okay, fair enough. That's what they're doing. I'm not going to weep for them now that Israel's just wiped a bunch of them out.
Yeah. So on there you can see the extent of it. Yeah. So if we could go back to the other link and actually play, it's just about 2 minutes long. That one. Can we play this? We don't even need to.
Hezbollah has suffered a string of blows to its command structure over the last fortnight, culminating in the killing of its elusive leader Hassan Nasrallah on Friday. So how did the Israel Defense Forces manage to track him down, and how have they been able to target so many of Hezbollah's top commanders? Well, our security correspondent Frank Gardner has been looking into it. Frank.
Well, targeting the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah was a strategic decision by Israel. In hiding for years, he'd long been in Israel's sights. So, how did they do it? Israeli intelligence was already widely assumed to be behind the lethal sabotage of all those thousands of Hezbollah's pagers and walkie-talkies. The Mossad, that's Israel's overseas spy agency, is thought to have inserted explosives into the supply chain. Now, that was almost a fortnight ago. What's transpired since then is that Israel's penetration of the Hezbollah command structure goes deeper still. Just have a look at this pyramid here. The Israeli military says that it has assassinated all of these senior Hezbollah commanders. So just how has this Israeli campaign been able to penetrate Hezbollah security so comprehensively?
It certainly looks like something that would have been put together over probably years.
We stop playing that, Samson?
It would have been built up from...
We get it. Mossad are sort of...
You've got to give them credit.
Masters of what
Clearly
they do.
The best at what they do.
So if I could just quickly click on that... Well, mouse isn't working. On the one that I said, structure eliminated. Again, look at that pyramid. So there's a guy directly under there, Fawad Shakur. Yeah. So they got him, I think, at the end of July. And what they were able to do was just tap into his smartphone and or his laptop or whatever, and just know exactly where he was on the top floor of a particular building, drop a JDAM or some sort of intelligent munition through that and blow it up, kill him. So from there, Hezbollah obviously realised that all their devices were compromised. So that's why they went back to low-tech stuff. I did think to myself, who uses pagers anymore?
Well, people who don't want to get blown up by Israel.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's a moment in time. It's like the early 90s was pagers.
Yeah.
Right? Like 1992, people had pagers. Who has pagers these days? Anyway, well, it's because all their smartphones and stuff was compromised. So they went back to using walkie-talkies and even pagers. And they went to buy them from a company in Hungary, I believe. And Hungary was actually sourcing them originally from Taiwan. Right. And so somehow Mossad got wind of all this.
Right.
And intercepted the shipment of these things from Taiwan to Hungary, replaced those with batteries with little 20-gram bits of explosive, then let them go on to Hungary, and then Hungary sell them to Hezbollah in Lebanon, and then when they're ready, they play that clip actually, Samson. It's not too graphic, but it is. There's loads of clips like this where you can see people getting hurt. Anyway, that's enough. You don't need to see any more. It's just there's no more. Yeah, they did that. So yeah, it just seems that in the Israeli cabinet, they've decided we're going to do whatever it takes, whatever we need to do. Because also the Hamas leadership has been sort of terribly destroyed and killed as well, haven't they? So on the Douglas Murray did I mentioned Douglas Murray earlier, didn't I? Being sort of so anti-Islam that he's almost pro Israel, but it's still quite funny. Still quite funny for him to dig it. I had this debate with someone on Twitter, someone who I like, so it's no dig at them. And they were saying it's weird for us to revel in Israeli wins in any way, because the Israelis aren't our allies or anything. And I get the point. I understand their point. But seeing militant Islamists get their comeuppance,
yeah, I mean,
puts a smile on my face.
These aren't good people.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You don't have to agree the Israelis are good people either.
Right. It's not a zero-sum game.
No, it's not.
I've got enough enmity in my heart for both sides. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, I'm an Englishman with an RAF-themed tie, Celtic-themed cufflinks. Mm-hmm. So no, I don't pick a side. But yeah, it's still funny for Douglas Murray to sort of dig at Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah.
And George Galloway. I mean, George Galloway was literally
He's got me
friends
blocked.
with-
I can't see what he's saying, but I can
Oh,
imagine
really?
he's weeping. Yeah.
Well, Corbyn's got you blocked.
No, Galloway.
Oh, right, okay.
I've never even tweeted him.
He was literally friends with Hamas leadership.
Yeah, I know.
And met with Hezbollah and stuff. So,
As bad as Jeremy Corbyn, if not worse.
so yeah. All right, so it comes down then to just if you could, Samson, just click through those various links relatively quickly. Just what the mainstream media is saying. You know, BBC News has obviously got almost a minute-by-minute feed. You know, this is the news. War, happy now.
Yeah, I mean, the media loves the clicks.
Yeah.
Nice brass eye reference there.
Cheers. Well, so the overall thing to say about it really is that there's no end in sight. It's an endless sort of desert feud, racial, religious, and over land, quite literally.
Oh, that's all
Until-
due to the Middle East, isn't it? My goodness.
Until Iran and their terrorist proxies give up the hope of defeating Israel, or Israel give up the hope of there being an Israel, it will never end. And neither of those things will happen, or are extremely unlikely to happen. Right?
Yeah, I don't see an end in sight of it.
It's an immovable object versus an unstoppable force. Neither side sort of can give in, right? Neither side particularly see it in their interest to even come to the table.
Well, I would
Really,
hazard that the Islamic regime in Iran is more likely to collapse before they defeat Israel. So
I would say the same, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible that in the next 20 years or something, the mullahs get overthrown and the money dries up, and so it could well be that it does come to an end, but it's not going to be willingly.
Yeah, right. And of course, we all know that the US, even under Trump, is entirely in Israel's column on this.
Totally.
Thing. I mean, Trump's got almost a personal boggle with Tehran, hasn't he?
Yeah.
They're trying to assassinate him, and he strikes their guys when he was in power and stuff.
Yeah. Trump seems to make everything personal, as you say.
I mean, if we remember the Qasem Soleimani assassination, that was Trump dropping smart munitions on one of their leading militarists and blowing him to bits. So Trump's prepared to pull the trigger on stuff. Absolutely, he's got no problem with that.
Unlike the Obama administration, who was like, "Why don't we just give them loads of money?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although Obama was not shy in bombing countries, to be
No,
fair.
but with the Iranians in particular, he's like, "We need to give them money." Then he
Very
lost
strange, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's bizarre.
Country that's actively hostile to us. Let's
When
just
Trump
give them
stopped giving them money, they all screamed, "Oh my God, how can you stop giving Iran money?" It's really weird.
It's like
how it works.
So we've been sharing our nuclear secrets with North Korea.
Yeah.
So one of the last points I would make is just the possibility of there's Soleimani's the ring, the very distinctive ring he wore, so that we're able to identify his destroyed corpse. Bit grim. Anyways, the biggest thing is a possible massive war with basically the US versus Iran. Now,
The Iranians have been threatening this for many, many years and nothing's happened.
yeah, well, there's a Cold War. It's not even all that cold, is it? But there's obviously an ongoing Cold War with them.
It's not even a Cold War. It's basically a sort of guerrilla proxy war.
Yeah, right. Yeah, proxy wars.
And
Maybe
it's like,
that's the right description.
okay, but the Iranians are clearly losing it.
Yeah.
And it's because they're clearly picking a fight with powers that are just far beyond what Iran is capable of. So it's pretty inevitable how this is going to go.
They're outclassed. They're outmatched.
By just orders of magnitude.
Yeah. So Hezbollah aren't able to contest the skies with Israel, right? They've got no fast jets.
Honestly,
There's no dogfights between Hezbollah fast jets and the Israeli Air Force.
it reminds me of Mithridates declaring war on Rome. It's like, you're not even on the same continent as the Romans. You know, you're never going to get to Rome. You're never going to win the war. You know, the best you could get is for them to just be like, oh, it's not worth the time. You know, it's for them to wander off and do something else. You can't win this. You know, it's...
So the Israelis, for one example, the Israelis will use satellites just to be watching Lebanon the whole time, or Gaza, or wherever it is, wherever they want. Just watching it the whole time. And then they'll just relay things back in real time to unmanned drones or actual fast jets, pinpoint stuff, and then when the Hezbollah are going to do a counter-strike, they're ready to strike that counter-strike. Hezbollah can't win this in a military sense, right? They're just so...
The Arab way of war is old-fashioned, and it doesn't fit in the modern era.
And none of that is to be simping for Netanyahu, to be clear.
No, but
Just saying the facts, right? It's just the facts.
It's just how it is.
Okay, so the very last thing I just want to say is that, again, the main worry is that Israel draws the US into some sort of big thing with Iran, and ever since the October 6th, or is it October 7th?
October 7th.
October 7th. Ever since then, literally like that day or the next day, people were saying, oh, it's going to be World War III. I thought, that's still a long way off, and I still think it's a long way off.
Absolutely,
But I don't think it's inevitable, though. I mean,
That we do
the same way that nothing is,
well, I suppose so, yeah.
That we
I'm saying
do or
it's
don't.
sorry. I think it's sorry. I wasn't clear there. I think it's a possibility at some point in the future that in the end, it's the U.S. Air Force is bombing Iran, or joint U.S.-Israeli Air Force doing hundreds of fast jet sorties into Iran and stuff. That's possible.
I get the feeling though that the Iranian regime realizes, because as I understand it, they're quite unpopular in Iran.
I believe so.
And people generally don't seem to support them. So I always wonder, are they afraid of engaging into a major conflict because they'll just find themselves ousted?
Maybe. They've got a police state, essentially, haven't they? Some type of police state. It's not a full-blown Stalinist 1950s thing, but
it's also, it just seems to be deeply unpopular with the average person in Iran. So.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of Iranians that I've spoke to that, are fresh out of the country are quite westernized already.
Yeah.
It's quite surprising, really. I thought, okay. But then I suppose that before the revolution, they were quite Western aligned, weren't they?
Iran's one of the weird events of the 20th century, I would say, because the Iranians are the least likely people to become Islamic militants. You would think, until the revolution. So it's just like, okay, that's weird.
So the Islamic Revolution in Iran was only 1979.
Yeah.
So before that, they had the Shah, they had a king, essentially.
Yeah.
And he was, again, it wasn't, I don't think, all that
Western
popular.
puppet.
I don't think it was all that popular among the Iranian people either. Well, he wasn't. But yeah, they were sort of Western aligned before the Islamic Revolution. Went full-blown Islamist. And now we're dealing with whatever we're dealing with. So just have to keep watching it. But I just hope Britain, NATO, or even the British Army doesn't ever get involved in this what is this desert feud thing.
I don't trying to get out of it.
Yeah, it's not in English interests or even British interests in any way, shape, or form. And I won't take a side.
Hope you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, and if you want to see what else we're putting out, you can follow our series Lads Hour, where we have a lot of fun behind the paywall. Here we're playing GeoGuessr, and if you want to follow everything else that we put out, follow us on Twitter. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.